This stunning and catastrophic admission by Donald Trump during his disastrous trip to the United Kingdom, I think deserves more attention. So after day one, when a very sickly and weak Donald Trump with those hands of his that looks like they were dipped in a piranha tank, after he went to the Disney experience at Windsor Palace, the very next day, he finally held a press conference with Keir Starmer, and Donald Trump acted like he was like a PR rep for Donald Trump. And it's like, I've got some breaking news I'm going to be making right here. You're going to have breaking news, dude. You're the freaking president, unfortunately. What do you mean you've got breaking news? He goes, okay, the breaking news is, everybody remember the Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan? Remember when we had troops there and I cut the deal with the Taliban where I said we were going to get rid of all of the troops, but then I took no action and then just dumped it in the lap of former President Biden because I'm so weak after I released the 5,000 Taliban forces and just wouldn't even communicate with the Biden administration? Everybody remember that? Everybody remember the ordeal and the experience in Afghanistan? Well, we're going back.
Donald Trump just blurted out, "We're trying to get Bagram back," like a bored kid spoiling the movie ending. And if you're not alarmed that a sitting president casually leaked a plan to re-enter Afghanistan while standing beside Britain's prime minister, you're not paying attention. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Tap subscribe, drop a like, and share this with one friend who follows global politics. Getting this in more feeds helps independent reporting cut through the circus. Thank you. Let's set the scene. Day one of Trump's Windsor cosplay was all pomp, carriages, and crown-polishing pageantry, with a visibly wan president whose hands looked like they took a quick dip in a piranha tank before the banquet. He delivered a halting toast about being the first something or other to do a thing in a place that many presidents have, in fact, visited. Then, his return flight turned into a rolling press gaggle, where he riffed about windmills frying birds like you don't even need a stove, mused that late-night shows should lose their licenses for criticizing him, and cracked that he only wished reporters a safe flight because he himself was on the plane. Presidential bedside manner meets middle school cafeteria energy. And then came the real breaking news, the part that would make any national security lawyer reach for an industrial-strength stress ball. In front of cameras next to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump said the administration is trying to get back Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, touting that it sits an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. First, we don't broadcast operational intents from the podium like we're teasing next week's reality show. Second, an hour away is not a foreign policy, it's an approximate Apple Maps search said out loud. Third, the Taliban is not exactly in the "yes, Mr. Trump, come on in and redecorate" business. According to follow-up reporting, Kabul isn't begging us to move back in, it's the other way around. So after cutting the original Doha deal, releasing roughly 5,000 Taliban prisoners, failing to complete a responsible drawdown, and dumping the live grenade in the next administration's lap, Trump now wants to wheel back in and plant a flag on the same runway, this time by publicly sweet-talking the very people who took the country by force once the Afghan government was cut out of negotiations. Genius, truly. This is the strategic logic equivalent of lighting your kitchen on fire, handing the hose to your neighbor, and then holding a press conference to announce you're considering moving back in because the living room is only an hour away from the fire department.
In a world saturated with information, finding the truth requires unwavering dedication and independent voices. America Facticity stands as a beacon for factual, unbiased reporting, delivering the stories that truly matter. Join our membership for just $9 a month. Your support helps us grow our team and create even better content. Find the link in the description below.
I'm working with the Taliban to bring us back to Afghanistan, everybody. You pumped? I mean, he literally said that at the press conference. And then the next day, because Donald Trump leaked his own classified breaking news, the Wall Street Journal then reported, yes, the Trump administration are in discussions with the Taliban about reestablishing a U.S. military presence at Afghanistan's Bagram Air Base as a launch point for counterterrorism operations. Okay, that's the spin that you're putting on there. But then when you actually read into the article, the Taliban doesn't want the United States there. So now the Trump regime is begging the Taliban, please, can we get Bagram back? We want Bagram back. Can we please get it back? So let me just show you this moment and this disastrous trip right here where Donald Trump gives this breaking news. Can I play it for a second? Let's play it.
They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster. for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, that one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening. The Russia situation, I hope we're going to have some good news for you coming up. But again, it doesn't affect the United States. And look, it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us. But I will say this, it's millions of people have died in that war, millions of souls. And they're not American. They're soldiers, mostly soldiers, as you know.
Now, I just want to remind you as well that it was right around 9/11 of 2020, September 11th, 2020. That's when Donald Trump basically decides, all right, Taliban, let's negotiate right now after releasing 5,000 of your prisoners. Okay, the U.S. will do a withdrawal. We're going to release the prisoners. Y'all want to come to Camp David on 9/11 to commemorate that we're going to do a deal together? Literally, the Taliban responsible for 9/11, Trump invited them to Camp David. And although that trip never actually happened, they were going to do it. But there was the other trip with Trump's Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who meets with the Taliban leaders. They cut out the actual Afghan government from, the entire ordeal. And then the Taliban takes over Afghanistan.
Let's stitch the timeline. In 2020, Trump's team negotiates directly with the Taliban while marginalizing the Afghan government. Mike Pompeo sits smiling in Doha. The U.S. agrees to withdraw. 5,000 Taliban prisoners are released, and Trump floats inviting Taliban leaders to Camp David on the anniversary week of 9/11 because nothing says solemn remembrance like a photo op with the perpetrators' enablers. He leaves office without completing the drawdown he insisted on. Communications are chaotic. The transition is a mess, and when the brittle Afghan political edifice finally collapses, because it was always brittle, the same chorus turns around and screams, "Biden's fault," at a volume that could crack Buckingham Palace crystal. Fast forward to Windsor. Trump's standing at the lectern proclaiming, "We're trying to get it back," as if Bagram were a gym locker he forgot to clear out, while simultaneously insisting the war in Ukraine doesn't affect America because there's an ocean in between. Don't tell our NATO commitments or global energy markets. They might take offense. For a self-styled deal maker, he keeps announcing deals that don't exist, with partners who don't agree about bases they already occupy. It's like hearing a real estate pitch from a guy who swears he can sell you your old house if you'll just let him back inside to measure the drapes. And it wasn't even the only whiplash moment of the trip. Between photo ops, he declared that networks should face licensing consequences if their evening shows hit Trump. That's not just thin skin, that's a thick red line through the First Amendment. The government does not yank broadcast licenses because the host did monologue jokes about the president's feelings. He basically said the quiet part extremely loud. He wants critics off the air. Combine that with ABC's sudden suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's show and an FCC chair rattling sabers about doing things the easy way or the hard way, and you've got a White House flirting with the very censorship it promised to end on day one. Say what you want about late night ratings, but tell jokes, lose license is not a standard the Constitution recognizes. If your defense of free speech only applies to your friends, you're not defending a principle. You're protecting a tribe. Mid-roll reality check. If you value deep dives that thread global events with the domestic fallout, hit subscribe now and turn on notifications. It's free, it supports the work, and it keeps this content independent. Also, talk to me in the comments. Do you think this Bagram float was bluster or a trial balloon he fully intends to chase? I'm reading everything you write. Back to the circus. Trump's energy policy remarks are a mad lib of folklore. Wind turbines cost the country millions, kill the birds, and make you lose money. He tossed in solar fields as bird broilers that fry anything that lands, which is a bold take from a man who thinks a hurricane can be stopped by raking a forest. He canceled major offshore wind projects that would have created tens of thousands of jobs and diversified our grid at precisely the moment AI and crypto are devouring electricity like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. He insists you should make money with energy while axing the exact projects that do that. It's almost performance art. He attacks the solution, blames the problem on the solution, and then demands applause for protecting the problem from the solution. Then came the Snowflake Core segment. Asked whether a group of women who protested him at a DC restaurant should face jail time, he pivots to calling them a threat. To recap, a man who thinks drag brunch is the apocalypse and who treats peaceful protest like insurrection cosplay now wants to lock up critics for chanting. This is the Law and Order brand in 2025. You are free to speak as long as you cheer. Disagree, and suddenly your volume is menacing, your sign is a weapon, and your rhymes are RICO. He spends more time treating Americans who object to him as enemies than he does holding actual enemies accountable. Consider the contrast. He admires the bravery of the Houthis for keeping their word after taking tremendous punishment, as if we're evaluating a district rival football squad that played through the pain while demanding criminal penalties for women who shouted at him over crab cakes. Speaking of keeping their word, Trump continually insists the networks never have conservatives on, which is adorable given that the most watched channel in cable is a right-wing network that practically lives at the White House like it's Airbnb West Wing edition. Also, conservatives are constantly on every platform because media chases conflict. Producers are not allergic to booking guests who will yell. What is new is a president who wants to convert criticism into cause. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that, he says. No, they are precisely allowed to do that. The license allows them to broadcast. It does not bind them to broadcast compliments to Donald Trump like it's North Korean radio. Let's talk Fallout. The FCC chair's easy way or hard way shtick earned a rare rebuke from Ted Cruz, yes, that Ted Cruz, who warned that it sounded like a mob threat. When Ted, memorized the Constitution for fun Cruz, is telling your FCC guy that he's doing Goodfellas on TV stations, you've left the conservative lane and are barreling into authoritarian traffic. Even conservative media entrepreneurs are nervous because they can do the math. If the government normalizes punitive licensing for content, the first studio that gets it on a technicality today may be your studio tomorrow. That shoe always ends up on the other foot. History is a sneakerhead.
Hey.
Lawrence, back to you.
All right, thanks, Brian. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow for more zany kill 'em comments.
See you tomorrow, because I know you're not going to get fired for that.
You said you don't know the number of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor.
It's like McDonald's, billions served. After a while, they just stopped counting.
If you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
It's not.
means
It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Oh,
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
My job is to provide for the safety and security of this country.
You need me on that wall.
Your fixation on this matter and baseless accusations that I'm hiding
Also
child
Mr. Massey's
pedophiles is disgusting.
interest.
At this point, it's not baseless.
No, it's his and MAGA's fixation.
Ghislaine Maxwell, she's transferred to a minimum security prison. Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
Prisons.
Prisons, you idiot! I gotta blow out my mic to let you know how dumb you are.
The minute someone makes a mistake, he just like air horns him into oblivion.
I would like to know what the Bureau of Decisions would decide, though. Who is deciding things these days?
I'm going to play for you a video clip of what Michael Wolff said Epstein told him.
He went into his safe and he came out with photographs. Topless girls are sitting on Trump's lap.
Why don't you take a picture? You're a journalist.
Yeah, this means nothing.
He has a stain on the front of his pants.
Oh God!
And the girls are kind of pointing at it.
It's not what you think. He actually somehow shat the front of his pants.
The man defies logic, okay?
It's the first case of interior skid marks.
Yeah. He inverted everything. The paradigm, his own organs.
Are there any photos showing Donald Trump with girls of an uncertain age?
No.
We know the age of every girl who's ever been photographed.
Oh,
with.
Ted, you got to be more specific. We had them hold their birth certificates up, actually, so there's very certain that they were underage.
You sat face to face with Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. Do you believe her?
I mean, listen, I think that people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to say what they're going to say.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, MAGA theatrics keep eating their own tail. Nancy Mace tried the reclaiming my time routine while the mayor of DC was literally answering her question, then demanded definitional gender quizzes like she was speedrunning a culture war meme. Marjorie Taylor Greene decided that a murder suspect isn't MAGA, but Antifa, because he'd been identified as a furry, a slur as policy analysis. The point of a hearing about violent extremism should be to condemn violence, understand pathways to it, and shore up prevention. Instead, we get cosplay prosecution with punchlines and no plan. Democrats, however, arrived with receipts. Representative Melanie Stansbury called out the orange-collar crime wave emanating from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, unlawful firings, defunding vital programs, constitution-trampling power plays, arrests without cause, retaliatory deportations, crypto grifts, and, looming above it all, the Epstein files fiasco, where FBI leadership can't seem to decide whether it knows anything, remembers anything, or wants to read anything. When director Kash Patel can't say whether Trump's name appears in the Epstein files 1 time or 1,000 times, and then admits he doesn't know the number at all, you are not looking at leadership. You're looking at smoke where a fire alarm should be. Survivors responded with indignation and a challenge. Read the 302s, interview the victims, release the reports. Stop pretending the cover-ups of the past are a permission slip for the present. Representative Eric Swalwell underscored a promise. There will be a Democratic majority again and records are forever. If anyone in government leaned on ABC, Sinclair, or Nexstar to yank a late-night critic, get a lawyer and save your emails. The First Amendment isn't a buffet where you pick the jokes you like and call the manager on the ones you don't. While Trump played royal tourist, protesters in London played reality check. Crowds filled Parliament Square, some whimsical, some furious, many simply tired, while Sky News noted the mix. Ukrainians, pro-Palestinian marchers, ordinary Brits who were not in the mood for a gilded parade for a convicted felon. Some were playful, the mini-Trump balloons, some caustic, some dressed like they wandered off the set of a medieval reboot because the far right always gets the good costumes, and yet the through line was unmistakable. Pageantry cannot launder character. Projecting images of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein on Windsor's walls was a pointed reminder that you can strap a crown on a fairy tale, but you can't strap amnesia on the public. Back home, the data keeps sighing. Fox's own September polling showed more respondents saying Trump made the economy worse than better. Energy prices remain volatile. Housing feels like a museum exhibit you're not allowed to touch. The vaccine advisory apparatus got swapped for a crank brigade that thinks measles is just a rustic throwback. Trump pledged a 1,000% reduction in drug prices while describing a math trick where a $10 pill becomes a $20 pill, and somehow that's a win. That's not policy, that's numerology with ad-libs. And because we can't go 60 seconds without whiplash, Trump's allies now scold corporate media for capitulating to cancel culture, even as the White House threatens licenses, a government cudgel, not a Twitter pylon. There's a canyon between social pressure and state punishment. One is messy democracy, the other is authoritarian muscle. If your official stance is that satire is sedition, you're not defending America, you're defining a different country. Now let's loop back to Bagram, because that's the headline that should be setting off sirens. Re-entering Afghanistan is not a bumper sticker. It's a years-long commitment with blood, treasure, and diplomacy attached. Who's the partner? What's the legal framework? What's the mission scope? How do you avoid becoming airbase squatters in a nation you just publicly abandoned? How do you handle force protection when the host government doesn't want you? And how, exactly, do you think China responds when you brandish a base an hour away from its nuclear infrastructure like a flex on a TikTok live? Only this White House could convert strategic ambiguity into blurted ambiguity and call it a win. We also need to talk about the casual way Trump treats classified or sensitive information. Announcing intentions about bases and counter-terror footholds is not how grown-up governments roll. You consult, you negotiate quietly, you get assurances, you build coalitions, you protect sources and methods. You don't tease it like a cliffhanger. Every time he tips his hand, adversaries take notes. Every time he improvises geography, allies lose patience. Every time he threatens licenses, comedians gain material, and the Constitution loses a little more of its Teflon. There's an irony to the Windsor optics that's just too on the nose. The golden carriage, the white-gloved guards, the crystal chandeliers, an entire apparatus designed to project continuity and restraint was rolled out for a man who treats government like a YouTube channel. The monarchy was forced to play adult, while Trump did improv. King Charles, in his measured toast, talked about shared heritage, sacrifice, and the values of the English-speaking world. Trump heard values and thought ratings. And yet, in the middle of all of this, something clarifying is happening. Pushback is coming not just from the predictable corners, but from conservatives who understand that normalizing government threats against speech is a Pandora's box with no lid. Ted Cruz's Goodfellas riff wasn't about Jimmy Kimmel, it was about precedent. Ben Shapiro's wariness wasn't about liking Kimmel's jokes. It was about conserving an actual liberty. The line isn't left versus right, it's power versus principle. Before we close, one more ask. If you've made it this far, you're the reason this channel works. Hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a breakdown. And sound off below. Should Congress subpoena communications between the White House, the FCC, and broadcasters over the Kimmel decision? And what's your read on the Bagram Gambit, posturing or policy? Here's the bottom line. Trump's UK trip wasn't just awkward pomp and bad toasts. It was a real-time window into an administration that treats national security like gossip, treats the press like a criminal enterprise, treats peaceful dissent like a felony, and treats energy policy like a campfire ghost story. Saying we're trying to get Bagram back may thrill the chest thumpers online, but it's the strategic equivalent of announcing you're moving back into a house you sold, to neighbors who change the locks, with a landlord who doesn't want you because you like the commute to a rival's building. It's unserious, unsafe, and unmistakably on brand. And for everyone clutching pearls about jokes on TV while shrugging at threats from the state, if your plan for free speech is that the president decides who speaks freely, you don't want freedom, you want a hall monitor with a scepter. We'll keep tracking the Bagram story, the FCC pressure campaign, the Hill hearings on Epstein files and free speech, and the London backlash. Drop your thoughts, share this with someone who still thinks license the jokes is normal, and keep your eyes on the policy, not the pageantry. If you appreciated the reporting, subscribe now, share this video, and consider becoming a channel member to keep this coverage ad independent. I'll see you in the next one, unless the government suddenly decides monologues are illegal.
And remember, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button.